The man awakens the infinite mana talent at the start. He thought it was the strongest skill in this land. But unexpectedly, during the dungeon challenge, he could only be a bystander, a tool to provide mana to others. Yet even so, he was still regarded as having a useless talent. Only because only mages and healers have the ability to absorb mana. But their role in the team is not high. And only during boss challenges is a large amount of mana needed. However, the man hid his true talent. Copy and paste can replicate any object he touches, even allowing him to replicate himself for infinite resurrection. But there is a fatal flaw. During a dungeon challenge, 10 people entered a berserk state. Last night, after receiving instructions from the mage, he quickly gathered mana in his hands. A vast amount of mana was directed towards the mage. At the same time, the berserk bard rushed over madly. The mage, having absorbed the mana, doubled in power. A surge of energy descended from the sky, instantly shattering the bard. Although they successfully completed the dungeon challenge in the end. From the perspective of the team leader, the contribution made last night was not significant, and he was immediately assigned to clean up. It turned out that last night, besides infinite mana, he had no other skills. Therefore, he could only provide support from the backline all along. Logically, this skill should be the strongest skill. But because only mages and healers have the ability to absorb mana, and only during boss challenges is a large amount of mana needed. So last night he became an ordinary member instead. However, what he did not expect was to be dismissed by the guild, either leave the guild, or be reassigned to logistics work. Based on the characteristics of infinite mana, he could be assigned to the potion department, only because in their eyes, Zano has lost all hope for growth. In the end, he was still kicked out of the guild. However, everyone only knew he could generate mana to provide to his teammates. But it was just a slightly special skill. They did not know his true skill was copy and paste, and it was a skill he awakened before becoming a hunter. It allows him to replicate objects he touches. He saw a similar dish appear in his hand. He originally thought it would be a high-level skill, but it had a fatal flaw. The replicated object disappears instantly after leaving his hand, so he cannot replicate coins or items for resale. And under normal circumstances, weapons in the dungeon have level restrictions. If the level requirement is not met, replication will not be possible. Only mana does not disappear after being replicated, thus giving the illusion of infinite mana. Although he also thought about using this method to replicate skills, it requires some stringent conditions. Suddenly, a news alert popped up on his phone. The Kalaya Dragon Longsword will be available in the island nation. The Longsword has two special reasons that attract people like moths to a flame. One is that the Longsword itself comes with an item slot. Defense and strength increase with level. The other important reason is the user can gain 200 levels at the moment of using the sword, and the minimum level requirement is only 30. Last night, as long as he could replicate the legendary sword, he can become a high-level hunter. Level 30 is the watershed for hunter levels, and he is currently only level 29. The legendary sword has a durability of only 10. Only then will it be displayed in the showcase. But this doesn't have much impact on Sano. As long as it is touched, it can be replicated infinitely, and he must reach level 30 within a week. The lair of the giant spider in the dungeon instance, a dungeon not registered with the Hunter Association. And here, Sano is still the tool providing mana. After absorbing mana, the wizard's blonde hair instantly unleashes powerful flames, burning the spiders in the cave to ashes. Different levels will exhibit different energies. Before this, Sano had already participated multiple times in such unofficial organization activities, because most are composed of high-level hunters. The danger level is not too high. Just as they continued to delve deeper, several spider eggs came into view. Above them, there was also a giant spider that had fallen asleep. Boss, level 80. I just took a glance, but felt a deadly sense of oppression. To kill the giant spider, the first thing to pay attention to is the spider silk in front. If the eggs in the nest are shattered, the giant spider will enter a berserk state. To this, the blonde suddenly became displeased. As the captain, he actually explained to a bystander that it was a waste of time, then kicked a stone underfoot. The stone hit the floating spider silk. The disturbance of the silk awakened the giant spider. A tentacle suddenly struck. The Xuang quickly raised his shield to block. In the next second, the tentacle was instantly severed. With mutual cooperation, the team was surprisingly on par with the giant spider. And at this moment, Sano was hiding behind a pillar, waiting to pick up the scraps. As long as he defeats the spider in front of him, he can at least reach level 35. In the next second, he was dumbfounded. Faced with the giant spider's silk attack, the blonde actually stupidly used fire magic. Several fireballs shot out. The strongman still wanted to stop it, but it was already too late. Last night at this time, he looked ashen. Sure enough, under the attack of the fire magic, the spider eggs showed cracks. The sudden change caused everyone to show a look of terror. Seeing this, everyone retreated and evacuated. The giant spider's eyes turned blood red, emitting a terrifying aura. The fleeing crowd was instantly wrapped in spider silk. The blonde had long lost his previous bravado, looking at the giant spider, entering a frenzy. He was so scared that he wet himself. Unsurprisingly, he was pierced through by a tentacle. Last night, he was also wrapped around a pillar. The giant spider's gaping mouth was right in front of him. His mind was filled with 10,000 curses. He originally just wanted to level up once, but ended up losing his life here. The opponent's tentacle brushed past his body. Sano's eyes revealed pain. But the next second, a window popped up asking whether to paste the copied object. The man never expected. The talent of infinite mana was merely a power bank-like function. It could only provide mana for mages and healers. However, others did not know. His true talent was copy and paste. He could even copy his own body for infinite resurrection. And it was a skill that could evolve. The evolved copy and paste fixed the fatal flaw of disappearing when separated. The man crazily chose to maintain for 1,000 years. When challenging the giant spider's dungeon, the giant spider entered a berserk state. The sudden change caused everyone to flee in panic. Sano was entangled in spider silk and unable to move. The giant spider's gaping mouth was right in front of him. He was instantly marked with a blood streak from a tentacle. His eyes revealed a look of terror. But the next second, a pop-up prompt asked whether to paste the copied object. Sano unhesitatingly chose to confirm, then immediately printed a new body nearby. After copying and pasting himself, the original corpse would disappear, but the original body does not dissipate. So, just in case, last night, before challenging the dungeon, he would make a copy of his complete self. If he died unexpectedly, it would automatically paste, and the original corpse would disappear. Each time, as an observer, watching his own corpse disappear, he would feel very uncomfortable. However, the next second he was pierced by a tentacle. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Copy again. After pasting, he immediately hid. The giant spider in front of him was like a towering giant. Even using skills continuously, escape was impossible. Suddenly, a cry for help came from not far away. Following the sound, it turned out to be Captain Kai Yongchan. Sano was caught in a painful dilemma. The giant spider was walking towards them. He had no way to help the other party. After thinking, he made a decision. He couldn't just stand by. He then swung a light blow at the tentacle. Now, he was like a mayfly shaking a tree. But at least he changed the direction of the tentacle. Sano looked at the upgrade pop up in surprise. This meant that the previous attack was effective. But the next second, he was pierced again. This time for the Kalia dragon sword. He had to leave alive, using the copy and paste skill to defeat the opponent. It was just a matter of time. 3 days later, he had already resurrected over 50 times. During this period, his combat skills had greatly improved. The giant spider also became gradually weaker. Fortunately, the opponent did not have recovery ability. Suddenly, the opponent changed direction, spitting out several clumps of spider silk from its rear. Sano quickly dodged. He had already been killed by this attack method 4 times. Facing the giant spider's tentacle attack, Sano jumped up to dodge, climbed up the tentacle, and swung down at the opponent's head. But unexpectedly, his sword broke. Unsteady on his feet, he fell to the ground. The previous strike seemed to have no effect. It even angered the opponent's left eye. Incredulous, looking at the scene before him, suddenly, the opponent's eye began to swell. Then cracks appeared on its body. In the next second, it actually exploded into fragments. Last night, escaping death felt like a relief. Upgrade windows kept popping up. He also saved Kai Yongchang from the pig's mouth. A sudden impact struck him fiercely. He looked at the attacking target in pain. The newly hatched spiderlings were level 30. Last night, he realized that if he was killed now, then Captain Kai Yongchang wouldn't survive either. But at the moment, the spiderlings pounced. He still chose to protect. In a critical moment, a sharp blade split the opponent in 2. But then more spiderlings surrounded him. Skill: Hellfire. The blue flames instantly burned the opponent to ashes. Hellfire is the highest level fire attribute magic that can be freely controlled. Very few magic hunters possess this ability, so he quickly guessed the opponent's identity, using a magic swordsman known as the Witch's Blade, ranked 5th in the Hunter Island. Looking at the scene before him, he had already guessed the reason for the near-total annihilation of the team. The shattering of the spider eggs caused the giant spider to enter a berserk state. But he didn't understand why the 2 people in front of him could survive. A low-level hunter defeated the boss, and even saved his companion. In the Hunter Association's evidence room, it turned out someone reported them. Last night, they entered an unregistered dungeon, expecting the hunters to show up in time. After Sano submitted the reward for killing the leopard, the spider stick, and the report, expecting, let him go back. Sano was a bit surprised. He clearly participated in the unofficial event with dirty money, and the opponent was almost entirely wiped out. In the end, there was actually no punishment at all. In the dungeon, dozens of fatal accidents occur every day. On the entry and exit declaration form, they will sign a consent form for the dangers. And in order to level up, low-level hunters will pay to team up with high-level hunters. Challenge unregistered dungeons. Although this is cheating, the ultimate goal is to make hunters stronger. So the Hunter Association tacitly approves of this behavior. For this reason, Sano can only accept it helplessly. And the reward for the spider stick he submitted will be paid out in a few days. To his account, Sano stated he would leave the bonus for his juniors. Expecting to look at the spider stick, he began to think, even if he was lucky, it would be impossible to complete the as a low-level hunter. High-level dungeons. The man in front definitely hid something. Sure enough, Sano grinned in the corridor. Time goes back to after Sano killed the boss. The reward was a giant spider stick. The spider stick has the same effect as spider silk. After use, for a certain period of time, it shows strong adhesive power, usable at level 40. Seeing this, Sano couldn't help but feel a bit frustrated. He had died more than 50 times, and only got this glue-like thing. Maybe it could be useful for outdoor camping. So he thought about trying to replicate it. Just as he touched the spider stick, the spider stick actually disappeared. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. Sano looked at the window in surprise. Prompt. The spider stick was absorbed by the existing skill. Adhesive ability value increased. The object can be replicated and evolved. The controlled object can be pasted. Level 1. There are 3 functional options. The effects of the functional options shocked him greatly. Option 1. Paste and replicate the object. Can maintain for the required time. Option 2. Can paste anywhere within a certain time period. Option 3. Can untie the giant spider's silk. Sano originally thought copying, pasting was a failed skill, but unexpectedly, it could still evolve. He then replicated a spider stick. Time, 1 minute. At this time, the spider stick would not disappear after leaving the body. After 1 minute, it indeed dissipated into the air. Last night, stars appeared in his eyes. Then he kept replicating. 100 years, 1,000 years. Just by increasing 1 level, he gained a significant boost. Thinking of this, Sano couldn't help but laugh out loud. Almost mistaken for a lunatic by passersby. Next, he would replicate the Kalaya dragon longsword. Become a high-level hunter. A man awakens with the weakest talent. Copy and paste. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be a skill that could evolve. After leveling up, it also fixed the flaw of the copied object disappearing after separation. However, the skill user only has a lifespan of 20 years. At this moment, the dungeon collapsed. Monsters surged into the real world. The man was only thinking about whether he could replicate the Kalaya dragon sword. After Sano killed the giant spider, he unexpectedly upgraded his copy and paste skill to maintain the copied object for a long time without disappearing. A useless talent would become the strongest skill. The International Hunter Association escorted the Kalaya dragon sword to the island nation. Hunter Grant, level 112. Hunter Rs, level 131. Professional magician. The lead vehicle passed through the underwater dungeon, affected by electromagnetic waves. Communication would be interrupted, and the underwater dungeon is also a unique site. If a collapse occurs, it would become a disaster. At this moment, at the Rainbow Bridge Dungeon Entry Management Office, Oda and Sato were bored out of their minds. He picked up a slime from the ground. However, he was unaware that danger was approaching. The burly man showed a look of horror. Creatures from the dungeon appeared in the real world. Suddenly, it felt like he was bumped from behind. The burly man looked at the creature in front of him in terror. It was a giant goblin. He quickly raised his shield to block the opponent's mace. Last night, he had never been so satisfied with his status attributes. All of this happened after killing the giant spider. When hunters reach level 50, they will join hunting teams, just to better adapt to the ultimate dungeon. In the ultimate dungeon, leveling up after level 50 becomes easier, and more rewards can be obtained, especially rare items. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the hallway. From their words, it was known. The legend of the dungeon collapse occurred. The Kalaya dragon sword was caught up in it. Upon hearing this, Sano, who wanted to stay out of it, couldn't help but be startled. The Hunter Association received. It was just a trailer protecting the long sword. However, everyone was looking forward to the order to hunt the monsters. Rescuing the citizens was the top priority. Emergency situation. Special measures. Suddenly, the crowd caused a stir. Sano desperately wanted to follow the Hunter Association to the dungeon. He was somewhat surprised by this expectation. I also explained, although unable to defeat the monsters, they could guide the evacuation of the citizens. Given Sano's previous performance, the expectation agreed to his request. In his view, Sano helped others in the giant spider dungeon, should be a selfless person. He also didn't expect the other party to really listen to his nonsense. Here, it was 100% for his own purpose. It has been less than 3 weeks since they calmed the Rainbow Bridge dungeon. Less than 3 weeks. Everyone was puzzled. But anything could happen in the dungeon. Even if the dungeon collapsed once, there is no guarantee it won't collapse again. To prevent a repeat of the disaster from 15 years ago, they could only take as many precautions as possible. The great disaster 15 years ago. Across the world, national disaster-level dungeon collapses occurred. If the monsters in the dungeon are not defeated correctly, the dungeon will become saturated and collapse, pouring out from the dungeon into the real world. Ordinary citizens could not withstand the hellish attacks at all. In that disaster, Sano lost his parents. It was at that time supernatural forces from another dimension appeared. His heart was enveloped by a light, although he gained power. But at the same time, he was also entangled by a curse, a gift with a 20-year deadline. To this day, he still doesn't understand whether it refers to the age of the skill or his own lifespan. And the cursed hourglass continues to fall. 15 years later, disaster struck again, which means it has been only 5 years left since that power appeared. He has now mastered the evolution and rules of the skill. Becoming the strongest hunter is just a matter of time. If he can prevent this great disaster, perhaps he can break the curse. And now, the top priority is to replicate the Kalaya dragon sword. At the same time, unidentified creatures have appeared on the Rainbow Bridge. The number of monsters has clearly exceeded expectations. A goblin suddenly appeared behind Ota. At a critical moment, a sharp sword flew in rapidly. Due to the electromagnetic waves in the dungeon, they cannot communicate with the outside world. They must reach the end of the bridge to join up with other teams. On the other side, a huge monster smashed into the trailer carrying the long sword. Bear monster level 190, and the trailer under R's protective magic was completely unharmed. As the highest level of protective magic, even level 400 cannot break through it. Before the words were finished, everyone looked up in disbelief. The anticipation on the fighter jet also revealed an expression of disbelief. A colossal creature appeared before everyone, the ultimate boss of the Rainbow Bridge dungeon. But Shala quickly shouted for everyone to be on guard. They saw the opponent breathe fire towards the Rainbow Bridge. The domineering way of appearing shocked everyone. Seeing this, Sano's pupils constricted sharply. My long sword should still be safe, right? The upgraded copy-paste skill can turn the tide. The man was originally just a blue bar power bank in the team. But now, he single-handedly defeated the pack of wolves, and even bound the level 190 bear monster to the ground. The combat power of the copy-paste skill has emerged. The ultimate boss's appearance shocked everyone, instantly destroyed the Rainbow Bridge. The opponent once again breathed fire into the sky. The fighter jet was filled with anticipation. Everyone could only choose to make an emergency landing. Due to the appearance of the ultimate boss, they could only change their strategy. Prioritize defeating the Sparrow Demon Ring. Looking around, they found Sano was not among the crowd. But he seemed to have a premonition about this. He would not die in a disaster of this level. They saw blue flames entwining the witch's blade. Skill. The blue flames of hellfire erupted towards the Sparrow Demon. Last night, I didn't expect to see hellfire twice in one day. I can't help but feel a lingering fear. But it only made him want to replicate this skill more. However, he did not want to get involved in the fight. This time, the goal was just to find the Kalia dragon sword and replicate it. Meanwhile, a group of masked hunters appeared. Their goal was also to find the Kalia dragon sword. Due to the appearance of the Sparrow Demon, the Hunter Association would definitely prioritize the hunt. Taking advantage of the Hunter Association's distraction, Complete the task as quickly as possible. Sano looked at the corpse of the wild wolf. A sense of foreboding arose in his heart. Because wild wolves act in packs. At this moment, he noticed the two nearby, Ota and another. The strong man was already injured and on the ground. But Ota did not choose to escape alone. Sano fell into deep thought. He did not want to care about them. Although the individual level of the wild wolves is not high, they act in groups. Collective attacks are equivalent to the strength of high-level monsters. However, Ota still did not want to give up. Seeing this, the strong man, Sano couldn't help but be moved. It was just like when he was in the dungeon. As he watched the wild wolf pounce forward, Ota raised his sword and struck. Suddenly, Wild Wolf appeared behind him. He had no time to react at all. Sano struck with a blow from Kunshin, knocked the opponent away. Regarding Sano's appearance, Ota couldn't help but be a bit surprised. There are actually other people here. But still thinking about getting the other party to escape quickly. Facing a pack of wild wolves, even high-level hunters may not necessarily survive. Sano's lips curled slightly. He also wanted to know what the effect would be after combining his skills with the spider staff. If it could withstand the pack of wild wolves. The body attack of several wild wolves covered the left side. Ota couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. In the next second, countless threads shot out, wrapping the wild wolves tightly like tentacles. In an instant, they were all bound. He also did not expect that the attack of the spider staff would be so fierce. The upgrade window kept popping up. Ota had an expression of disbelief. The other party actually defeated the pack of wild wolves in one go. After thinking for a moment, Sano gave a bottle of ultimate potion before leaving. Although it can't heal the injuries completely, at least it allows for free movement. But the next second, Sano felt a bit awkward and asked where the trailer carrying the long sword was located. On the other side, the bear monster that had just been roaring fell into a deep sleep under R's hypnosis. Magic. Suddenly, a black ball flew towards them rapidly. Grant swung his sword to split it open, quickly realizing that someone was lying in ambush nearby, but did not notice that after splitting the black ball, a blue object emerged. Then, a group of masked hunters appeared before them. The masked man at the front charged forward instantly. Grant hurriedly blocked with his sword. As a guard, he was already used to this. With a swing, he repelled the opponent. Just as he was thinking of continuing the attack, Ars quickly stopped him. Grant had a violent spasm, and the next second, he actually knelt on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of ketchup. He didn't understand why the situation occurred. Ars discovered that the opponent had used some kind of poison that could hinder mana absorption for a certain period of time. If the fight continued, it could lead to death. The opponent spoke frankly. This was their usual tactic. Ars' expression darkened. He didn't expect the opponent could use the poison banned by the International Hunter Association without hesitation. He, who always advocated non-violence, was also enraged. Immediately, he waved his fingers to cast magic. The opponent thought Ars was just at the end of his rope. Because he couldn't absorb mana, he couldn't cast magic at all. But the next second, he was actually decapitated. Ars forcibly cast magic, just to awaken the bear monster. The masked men were powerless before him, suffering heavy casualties, and ultimately had to choose to flee. However, the bear monster's attack did not stop, and charged towards Ars and the others. Grant knew Ars had no way to cast hypnosis magic again, but Ars still rushed forward, forcing himself to cast magic again. But the next second, he spat out ketchup. Without being able to absorb mana, he couldn't use skills. At the same time, the massive bear monster lunged forward. Its huge claws were right in front of him. His eyes revealed disbelief. Do you want to copy and paste the object? the man never expected. The masked thief would return, and was pierced by the opponent before he could dodge. The Kaliya dragon sword that countless hunters coveted fell into someone else's hands. Just after the bear monster repelled the masked thief, it launched an attack on Ars and the others. At a critical moment, Sano arrived just in time. Countless spider threads bound the bear monster. The fallen bear monster couldn't move. He never expected that using the spider stick would have such an effect. Ota directly became his little fanboy. After the recent battle, Grant and the others mistook them for accomplices of the masked thief, also eyeing the Kaliya dragon sword. Although Sano's goal was indeed the longsword, he did not want to confront them with blades drawn. Just as he was thinking about how to explain, Ota took out the credentials from the dungeon entry management office. To prove their identity, Sano, next to him, was overjoyed. A big white smile appeared. He already had a plan in mind. Then he cheerfully took out 2 bottles of intermediate potions for the Kaliya dragon sword. This was a necessary investment. After Grant and the others received the potions, they no longer pursued their identity. Ars looked meaningfully at the bound bear monster. Everyone looked at the air fleet, indicating that the support team had arrived. On the other side, the hunter unexpectedly matched the sparrow demon. At this moment, the battle suddenly came to a halt. They quickly retreated. It turned out that the sparrow demon had entered the 3rd stage. It would release a wide-range shockwave. The arrival of the support team bought them time to evacuate the citizens. Suddenly, strands of black lightning appeared. You complete the dungeon collapse mission like this? The person was none other than Cheng Qi, known as the Dark Sorcerer, future guild leader, level 503. Expecting to not understand why the other party appeared here. However, the other party's goal was also to defeat the sparrow demon. A huge magic circle appeared above the sparrow demon. In the next second, a force of black lightning struck down. Relying on it, everyone quickly escaped. The massive body of the sparrow demon crashed down on the rainbow bridge. As a result, everyone fell to the bottom of the bridge. At a critical moment, Sano's spider silk wrapped around everyone, suspending them in the air. The trailer containing the Kaliya dragon sword was pulled by the spider silk. After reacting, Sano was stunned by the scene before him. The body of the sparrow demon was right in front of him. Scared, he quickly covered his mouth, not daring to make a sound. At this moment, Cheng Qi arrived here. He also did not expect to find survivors, and it was a low-level hunter. Looking at the badge on the other party's chest with his left eye, he knew the other party was from the future guild, ranked 3rd in the country. He saw the other party float towards the howling bear monster. Then, he lightly flicked the spider silk with his finger. The incredibly tough spider silk actually tore apart, and the bound bear monster seemed to be shattered by a powerful force. Sano couldn't believe it. That the silk could bind a level 200 monster and withstand a 25-ton trailer was instantly blown apart with just a light flick from the other party. Upgrade windows kept popping up, but could not receive rewards. Cheng Qi beside him was somewhat surprised that it was the low-level hunter in front of him who bound the bear monster. And at this moment, the reward received seemed like an act of theft. Immediately, he casually threw the obtained bear paw at his feet. This made him feel insulted last night, glaring angrily at the other party. Just then, Killai also arrived here. Seeing this, Cheng Qi mistakenly thought Sano belonged to the Hunter Association, and Killai sensed Sano's hostility towards the other party. But he still let Sano evacuate with the civilians, because after Q Sha wakes up, there will be a large-scale shockwave. Sano was curious. Why not attack while he was unconscious? Killai shook his head. When the boss's health is down to a third, it will unleash a finishing move. With 2 attack modes, Berserk, and area attack. And low-level bosses usually only have Berserk mode. As the ultimate boss, Q-Sha, due to its very high health, Berserk and area attacks will occur repeatedly. Therefore, it needs to be defeated in phases. In the third phase, Q-Sha will absorb a large amount of magic. At this time, any attack will be ineffective. Suddenly, Q-Sha suddenly opened its eyes. The other party woke up earlier than expected. After waking up, it let out a roar. Cheng Qi and the others rushed up quickly. In his view, a low-level hunter dying in the dungeon was as common as an ordinary traffic accident. Last night, knowing that with his current strength, he still couldn't participate in the battle, he fled the scene. After saving everyone, he explained the situation on site. Q-Sha had already entered the third phase and would unleash an area attack. At that time, this place would cease to exist, and even trailers and long swords would be hard to find. Before that, it must be defeated. Therefore, the Sword of Kouryaku Dragon is needed, ensuring it will definitely be returned after use. But even so, Grant still disagreed. Reese further stated that it was impossible in Zano's view for the situation to end here. Ars continued to speak. Unlocking the trailer seal requires a large amount of mana, and due to the poison from the thief, he is currently unable to absorb it. Upon hearing this, Grant couldn't help but be a bit surprised that he would actually agree to the other party's request. Zano, however, was very pleased, as he had unlimited mana. With Zano's help, Ars successfully unlocked the trailer seal and then quickly jumped down. Grant was very curious why he agreed to Zano's request. Ars explained that after Zano had bound the bear monster, he did not kill it. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind Zano. It was the masked man who had just escaped. The masked man's return completely surprised everyone. It turned out that after being attacked by the bear monster, he did not choose to flee immediately, and he also did not expect to obtain the Sword of Kouryaku Dragon in this way. Due to the user's death, the giant spider's silk will be released. The silk pulling the trailer broke, and the trailer instantly fell into the water. The Sword of Kouryaku Dragon cleaved the ultimate boss, Blood Fiend. The copy-paste skill could not be copied due to insufficient level, but after being stabbed, he unexpectedly absorbed all the attributes of the longsword. However, Zano, whose life and death were unknown, was wanted by the Hunter Association. Because of him, the longsword mysteriously disappeared, its whereabouts unknown. After the trailer fell into the water, Zano then pasted himself back to the opponent's back and similarly pierced the opponent with a sword. I am not the kind of person who forgets favors and holds grudges. After saying this, the opponent collapsed to the ground. The long-desired Sword of Kouryaku Dragon was finally in hand, and he couldn't wait to choose to copy. But in the next second, I was dumbfounded, because the user's level did not meet the target requirement. Therefore, the target could not be copied. Zano cursed inwardly. The longsword can clearly be equipped at level 30 or above. Why is it that I am already level 50 and still can't equip it? Suddenly, I felt a chill behind me. The masked man from before actually stood up again and swung a sword at him. It turns out he has healing skills that can heal wounds. He then picked up the Sword of Kouryaku Dragon, repeating Zano's words from before. I am the kind of person who forgets favors and repays grudges several times over. As soon as the words left his mouth, he suddenly lunged forward with a stab. At this moment, a series of pop-up notifications appeared. The Sword of Kouryaku Dragon fused with the user, copying and absorbing the attributes of the Sword of Kouryaku Dragon, copying and absorbing the level of the Sword of Kouryaku Dragon. The user's protection mode will be activated, forcing the execution of the Berserk skill, pasting the Berserk skill of the Sword of Kouryaku Dragon. Meanwhile, Qiu Sha launched a ranged attack at Cheng Qi and the others. The situation had already reached an irretrievable state. Just as Qiu Sha released the energy, a huge blade shot up from the water, instantly cleaving through the colossal Qiu Sha. The two looked at the scene in front of them in shock. Qiu Sha was successfully defeated. Dungeon cleared. Hunter Association conference room. No one expected that the dungeon, which had calmed down 3 months ago, would collapse again. And the responsibility for this incident was pushed onto the large guild responsible for entering and exiting the dungeon. At this time, they were hoping and wondering if they had escaped last night. Just as various guilds were arguing endlessly, expectations smashed the table with a palm. The future guild's achievements were not affected at all. Regarding expectations' actions, the bald man was furious. The Battle of Changshu was about to break out. As the president of the Hunter Association appeared in time, avoided the battle. Immediately, expectations allowed everyone to witness the scene of defeating Qiu Sha, and credited the achievement to Cheng Qi beside him. Only they knew that clearing the dungeon was not their doing at all. Now someone must step up to take the blame, and expectations pushed him out. It must be right. He intervened midway, haunted by it. And he was determined to find the bastard who killed Qiu Sha. Expectations scanned the crowd with a piercing gaze. The Hunter Association will investigate the cause of the dungeon collapse and hold accountable the guild that delayed support. This statement instantly silenced everyone. Suddenly, Grant and another person represented the International Hunter Association arrived at the conference room. The Kalaya dragon sword was stolen during transport to the island nation and needs the Hunter Association's cooperation in the investigation. The bald men raised a critical question. When the trailer was attacked, they were the ones who released the seal themselves. Ars recounted the situation at the time. This is because the Great Sage Guild's hunter, Zhao Tianwu, and the Hunter Association's hunter, Sano, made a request for cooperation. Upon hearing this, everyone couldn't help but be a bit surprised. Expectations were even more shocked. The president of the Great Sage Guild confirmed Zhao Tian's identity, but the Hunter Association did not have a person named Sano. Cheng Qi, however, started to laugh. Did not expect the opportunity for revenge to come so quickly. In his view, expectations must know Sano, and then deliberately mentioned Sano, who bound the bear monster at that time. And he thought the other party knew expectations and belonged to the Hunter Association. Now it seems the other party could possibly be the one who stole the Kalaya dragon sword. On the other side, a man examined the longsword in his hand. Black chess level 301. President of the Blood Tower Guild. The masked thief in front couldn't help but doubt. Is the man in front of me the cause of the dungeon collapse? Random black chess offered 1 billion as a reward. Just when the other party thought the mission was over, Black Chess had a mocking expression. You accepted the mission just to obtain common information. The masked thief realized their deeds were exposed, knowing that the other party had intended to kill them from the start. Because the fewer people who know where the sword is, the better. Black Chess then swung his sword. The masked thief was hit by this sword, causing the durability of the Kalaya dragon sword to decrease by 2. Remaining 8. Black Chess looked at the longsword in his hand, muttering not to break it before it was repaired. The copy-paste skill actually evolved into absorption and fusion. Sano unexpectedly absorbed all the skills and attributes of the Kalaya dragon sword. The berserk skill that erupted at a critical moment split the sparrow demon in half. But he was also mistakenly believed by the International Hunter Association to have stolen the Kalaya dragon sword. They even aimed their swords at him. After the dungeon collapse incident, Sano was listed as the prime suspect in the sword theft. On the other side, Sano woke up in the hospital. The hourglass on his neck advanced half a point. Suddenly, Oda mist hugged him tightly. excitedly talking about the situation at that time. A huge flash erupted from the seabed. Passersby did not expect the few people in front of him. At the dungeon site, seeing this, Oda Mist became even more talkative. Sano was also helpless about this. Dishuang, however, stated that because of Oda, Sano was able to be saved. To rescue Sano, he threatened the large guild search teams and finally found him by the seaside. He also didn't expect that the boy in front of him could still threaten the large guild. But thinking of the president's name, Project, perhaps they had an unusual relationship. In the Hunter Association president's office, they were looking forward to hearing news of Sano's death. But there was no ripple. Grant was somewhat surprised. The other party was not surprised at all. In his view, hunters are always on the edge of death. The president stated he would fully assist in the search for the Longsword. Upon hearing this, Ars asked the president to dispatch high-level hunters for assistance. Because he already knew the whereabouts of the Longsword, the president was somewhat astonished. He couldn't help but wonder if the other party had tracking magic. It turned out that the Kalaya dragon sword was not an accessory. It had patterns engraved that identified the user's level. Ars sensed that it had been used about an hour ago. Grant still wanted to stop Ars, but it was expected that there had already been an investigation. 15 years ago, Ars's mother went missing during the Great Disaster. The Longsword is his only clue to find his mother. This was unexpected for both Ars and the other party, that the other party had investigated to such an extent. Expecting continued to speak. The stolen Longsword is your mother's relic. Upon hearing this, Ars was no longer calm. He stood up and asked, expecting to help him retrieve the Longsword, but expecting sense that the other party seemed to be hiding something. He did not fully believe the death from last night. Suddenly, the president of the Great Sage Guild called out to him, thinking to have him go back. As the number of dungeons increased, the management of the guild gradually became commercialized. The dungeon collapsed. If it is confirmed that the issue was due to poor management by the Great Sage Guild, the guild will be held accountable. This is also the reason he is reluctant to go back. The plane called out to his father and was about to leave. The president quickly changed the subject, telling him to visit the hospital before being dispatched. On the other side, Sano looked at his status attributes. At that time, thinking about how to leave if the Longsword duplication was successful. How to leave. Now. Although I couldn't replicate the body of the Kalaya dragon sword, the copy-paste absorbed and fused all its attributes and skills, which turned out to be a good result. The Berserk skill that erupted before death can tear apart enemies over level 400 and gain rewards for defeating the enemy. The shockwave skill from the enemy was absorbed into the copy. Copy evolution. Absorbing the shockwave skill from the copy, turning it into inherent vibration. The giant spider silk level increased to level 2. When using the silk, both inherent vibration and lifesteal can be used simultaneously. The copy-paste surprisingly increased the absorption and fusion function. Thinking of this, Sano had a sinister look on his face. Because the attribute enhancement level of the Kalaya dragon sword has risen to level 276, Sano's sinister expression scared everyone into fleeing. Suddenly, a commotion caught his attention. Expecting appeared right in front of him, scaring him to hide quickly. The one arguing with him was the little sweet thing, and the other party actually called Kilai's sister. It seemed like they had a shocking revelation last night. As if struck by lightning, he finally understood why. Da Jung said he could coerce the search team of the Great Sage Guild, and he thought it was just a coincidence at the time. It turned out that the two in front of him were siblings. Xiao Tuan revealed that Sano was not dead yet, and from Expecting's mouth, he learned that he was considered a thief who stole the sword by the National Hunter Association. Seeing this, Sano had to flee the scene until he retrieves the longsword. Suddenly, he turned around and bumped into something. Grant looked at him with a face full of anger. Sano couldn't help but feel a bit awkward. But the other party grabbed his collar with one hand. The man in front of him had deceived their trust and stole the longsword. I also wanted to explain that this is a misunderstanding. But Grant, consumed by anger, was already furious. Sano instantly sensed danger. Sure enough, Grant took out a sharp sword from the magical space. Ars quickly stopped him. I didn't expect that Grant would act this way in the hospital. At this moment, Grant was reckless, only thinking about making Sano suffer a bit. In a critical moment, Sano had to activate the newly copied skill, copying the inherent vibration. He actually shattered the sharp sword with his bare hands in an instant. This scene shocked Grant. The commotion caught the attention of Killai and the others. Expecting discovered that the skill used last night was surprisingly similar to the shockwave of Q-Sha. Last night, he looked at the other party with anger. Even one person can have a bit of anger. He really wanted to put himself in danger. On the other side, there was a girl group's concert. Countless fans went crazy for it. Sato Sayaka, a member of the idol group, after leaving with the other members, was intercepted by a black car. At a critical moment, he steadied the vehicle. Just as he was cursing at them, a man got out of the car and threw a box onto his hood, sneering at Sayaka. If you want to return to normal, then let's go to the underground city together. It's exploding. Besides copy and paste, there's actually a Ctrl-Z undo skill that can restore objects to their original form. And as long as there is enough magic power, it can even bring things back to life. After being intercepted by a black car, the black piece got out of the car, inviting him to join the raid. On the other side of the underground city, the Hunter Association found the location where the long sword was swung before. But it was still a step too late. The only clue to the long sword was cut off, and they could only wait for the other party to use the long sword again. Sano seemed to recall something in thought. During the battle with the masked thief, the other party mentioned the Blood Tower Guild. However, even Shichirai had never heard of this name. In the end, they could only rely on the other party to use the long sword again. But Expect remembered someone. He might have information about the Blood Tower Guild. In the Great Disaster 15 years ago, Sayaka was also granted skills by some mysterious power. Ctrl-Z, undo, restores the object to its original state. Just like a computer shortcut key, anything can be restored to its original state. A dilapidated toy, instantly restored to its original state after activating the skill. So acquiring damaged items and selling them at a high price after restoration. But this skill is different from the healing skills of a healer. Magic power is energy that only hunters can handle. Sayaka, without magic power, can only restore some minor injuries. In order to awaken those who were affected by the disaster, parents who have fallen into a deep sleep require a large amount of magic power, so he risks his life to follow other hunters into the dungeon. As a porter or healer, however, ordinary people who are not hunters entering the dungeon are like entering a cage with lions, in great danger. The only reward is the magic power they share. When they once again raid the dungeon, all the other hunters were wiped out. Only he survived. But a terrible greed arose in his heart. He was tired of this life and wanted to return to his original state. At this time, Black Chess appeared. Seeing him pick up expensive equipment, the girl in front of him was of the same kind as him. It turned out that Shalia and Black Chess already knew each other. But he did not understand why the other party this time wanted him to enter the dungeon with him. Black Chess took out the Kalaya dragon sword. The goal was to restore him, but it requires a large amount of magic power. Currently, Shalya is simply unable to do it. This is also the reason he asked Shalya to enter the dungeon one last time. Shalya was a bit surprised. Did the other party discover an item that generates unlimited magic power in the dungeon? But Black Chess shook his head in denial, and then said that as long as you enter the dungeon, the other party might appear. Future Guild, the strongest dungeon information organization in the country. Their desire to conquer the dungeon is stronger than anyone else's. Cheng Qi quickly mentioned the item the other party was looking for. The Heart of a Giant, also known as the item that generates unlimited magic power. The reward item from the Golem Snow Mountain. But it is a hidden dungeon, which rarely appears, and you must defeat the giant golem to obtain the reward. The Future Guild has specifically set up an investigation team to collect information. During this process, they discovered the Blood Tower Guild mentioned last night. They have been secretly recruiting golems. Snow Mountain Raid Team. Only then did they learn of the Blood Tower Guild's existence. However, the other party is more malicious than imagined. They plunder items by assassinating teams in the dungeon. It is a ruthless dark guild. Although the Heart of the Giant is something everyone desires, it is a coveted item. However, Zano does not need it. But he does not understand what the other party's purpose is in stealing the Kalia dragon sword. Moreover, the sword's durability is not high, unless the Heart of the Giant is more valuable than the sword. At this moment, Ars spoke up about some information regarding the Golem Snow Mountain. Since it was discovered 15 years ago, this hidden dungeon has never appeared. He has studied this dungeon for a long time. The Golem Snow Mountain is notoriously difficult to conquer, and is the first dungeon that hunters most want to avoid. However, Cheng Qi had a mocking expression. Now, group of people tasked with assassination has formed a small team to raid this dungeon. There must be something even more precious inside. Last night, it was learned from Cheng Qi that the other party has completed their recruitment and may have already set off, which means that before stealing the sword, they had long planned and anticipated, and were thinking of setting off immediately. He then mentioned the Future Guild, which has a raid team comparable to the guild's strength, ready at any time. Cheng Qi couldn't help but feel a bit awkward, his secrets being exposed. But among the collected information, there are reasons everyone is reluctant to raid. The Golem Snow Mountain has a group of puppets that are difficult to defeat in extremely harsh weather. Although they are only level 40, and their attack power is low, there are many of them. If the core is not destroyed, they can regenerate infinitely. He does not want to get involved, but in the end, he still followed everyone to the Golem Snow Mountain, and was exposed the killing of the level 500 Sparrow Demon last night. Still exposed. The Golem Snow Mountain maze is in chaos. The truth about the dungeon collapse comes to light. Ctrl-C to cancel skill. Such powerful strength actually exists. The obtained magic crystal unexpectedly burrowed underground. The hidden boss finally appears, after deciding to tackle the Golem Snow Mountain maze. What comes into view is countless rock puppets. One sword splits them in two, but the next second, they reattach, restoring as before. A fist smashed down. This is the last thing Cheng Qi wants to see. Only by destroying the core of the puppets can they be defeated. Black magic threads like silk quickly entangles the rock puppets, gathering them in one place. Cheng Qi raises his hand and swings. The rock puppets instantly explode. The members below immediately destroy the core. Under Cheng Qi's control, a whirlwind sweeps up. Seeing this, Sano is speechless, clearly saying he didn't want to come. Yet he's having so much fun. Time rewinds to before entering the snow mountain. Ars reminds to kill as many rock puppets as possible. This contradicts avoiding unnecessary battles. But in Ars's investigation was found. The Golem Snow Mountain is a type of inductive maze. This is the reason that gives Cheng Qi a headache. The maze has a unique order. First, the small fish monsters are defeated. Then the ultimate boss appears. Next is the hidden maze. Finally, the ultimate boss. As long as there is a gap in the middle, it cannot continue. Therefore, it is speculated that 15 years ago, for some reason, the failed, and has never appeared since. Now only by defeating more rock puppets can the ultimate boss be activated, and it must be killed quickly for the hunting reward. It could be the key to enter the next area. This must also be the goal of the Blood Tower Guild. We must act a step ahead of them. I don't care about their intentions. He just wants to take back the Kalaya dragon sword. Control V uses the giant spider silk rod. The silk instantly wraps around the puppet. Control V silk has inherent vibrations. The strong vibrations shatter the puppet. On the other side, Ars casts freezing magic. The puppet in front cannot move. With Grant's cooperation, the puppet is split in two. Suddenly a gigantic monster appears before everyone. With one punch, people and horses are thrown. One can see the expected palm-gathering power, then slams onto the rock puppet, creating a large hole directly. At this moment, the expected one noticed a person in the crowd. This person turned out to be Ota. He knows his sister won't let him participate in the. He can only act spoiled in front of Zano. In the end, Zano had no choice but to agree to Ota to participate in the name of his team. The maze has come to this point. There is nothing the expected one can do. But his own strength is not strong. This statement was suddenly refuted by Ota. He saw with his own eyes Zano kill the sparrow demon. The expected one instinctively looked at Zano and found that his silk skill was indeed different from before. It had an attached shockwave skill similar to the sparrow demon. The expected one does not understand how Zano did it. On the other side, the two from Black Chess also arrived at the snow mountain, but they did not participate in the battle. Watching the chaos below from a high place, among them, there are actually members of the Blood Tower Guild, using stealth skills to hide among them. But there is also the risk of being detected by high-level hunters. Black Chess looks at Shalia, who is collecting mana. They must defeat 100 small monsters to fully collect the mana transmitter in hand. At that time, in order to restore the Rainbow Bridge dungeon to its collapsed state, they had to use 10 mana transmitters and restore the Kalaya dragon sword. More golems will be needed. The snow mountain has a solid barrier. Only the Kalaya dragon sword can break it. Shalia is curious about how the other party knows this information. But Black Chess did not answer. But Shalia knows. Only by obtaining the item that generates unlimited mana. Can he awaken his parents? Last night he killed a puppet. The core that dropped down is different from the others. Just when he wanted to replicate it, the core actually burrowed underground. Then the ground cracked. Black Chess landed beside him, saying that it has begun. Zano was confused. The subjugation of the puppet has been completed. Entering the next area, it has appeared. The ultimate boss of the golems in the snow mountain has finally appeared. Even in the face of hellfire that burns everything, it can be reborn infinitely. As long as the core is not destroyed, it can be reassembled. As a magic crystal burrowed underground, then the ground cracked. In the shocked gazes of everyone, a huge rock puppet appeared before them. The ultimate boss of the snow mountain. A moving golem puppet, level 150. With a single strike, everyone was sent flying. Strange black magic burst forth like threads, instantly shattering the puppet. But the next second, the golem core burrowed into the remains of other rock puppets. Everyone looked shocked, watching everything before them. The golem that should have been shattered actually ray-fused. Strange magic followed, one after another. But the result was still the same as just now. Zano hurriedly used giant spider silk to bind it. trying to stop the movement of the golem core. But it was still fused by the other party. Remains. The pitch-black golem reappeared before everyone. The strength seems to be even greater than before. I didn't expect it last night either. My spider silk binding actually had no effect. At the same time, the anticipated hellfire erupted. Blue flames enveloped the golem, using hellfire to melt the opponent, while also melting the other remains, to prevent the opponent from fusing again. This is the terrifying aspect of the moving golem. According to R's intelligence, this time's expedition, the most difficult part is the moving golem in the middle. The opponent's core will collect and fuse the remains of other puppets. This also means the rock puppets defeated in the first phase must be defeated again. If it were an ordinary team, their psychological defenses would completely collapse. They would either flee or be completely wiped out. The only way is to destroy the core with hellfire, to melt the golem again. But the next second, blue flames appeared right behind him. Once again, the blue flames enveloped him. At this moment, the anticipated mana could not support him at all, after using hellfire multiple times. Seeing this, Zano thought whether to use the ability of the Kalaya Dragon Sword. Once used, it would definitely be detected by Rs. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something. He took out the reward from killing the giant bear. The Bear King's clasp has the characteristics of the Bear King. Skill 1. Can control any object for a certain period of time. Skill 2. Can enter any object and cause damage. Control V to copy and fuse the Bear King's clasp. Skill 1 was absorbed. Used simultaneously with spider silk. Can hold the object more firmly. Skill 2 was absorbed. Enter the opponent's interior and absorb 15% of their life force. After achieving the desired effect, Zano rushed forward. Spider silk once again bound the golem. The golem was wrapped in spider silk, unable to move. The scene shocked everyone present. They couldn't believe such a powerful ability existed. At this moment, Zano hurriedly urged Cheng Qi to continue the attack. But the previous attack was clearly ineffective. However, this time Zano was confident he could stop the core from moving. Under his urging, Cheng Qi launched another attack. Just as the core was about to escape, Control V used the giant spider stick. The spider silk instantly wrapped around it. This time successfully prevented the core from contacting other debris. Fusion was dumbfounded on the side. In his eyes, disbelief was evident. The scene also caught Black Chess by surprise. He never expected that they could seal the movement of the golem's core last night. Therefore, their plan had to be implemented early. All members of the Blood Tower Guild were in position. The shadow enveloped the sandbeam like a solid entity. Black Chess instructed him to prepare to activate the cancellation skill, to restore the dungeon to its initial state, because that guy's appearance would complicate the key retrieval. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared from the spot, having seen items restored to their original state, but never seen a dungeon that had already been cleared reset. The rock golem that had already been killed actually reappeared before them. After Zano bound the core, Black Chess had to implement the plan early. This scene was witnessed by the hidden Ota nearby. He was unclear why the other party was collecting mana. Black Chess activated shadow movement. In the next second, the two disappeared from the spot. On the other side, because the core was captured and bound by Zano, everyone decided that Zano would destroy it afterwards, which meant the reward would be his. After the core was shattered by a sword, accompanied by the prompt of successful subjugation, various upgrade pop-ups kept appearing. The reward was the key to the heart, which could open the hidden door sealing the heart of the giant. Zano had a sinister look on his face, plus the usual level adjustment. His level reached 285. Only 15 levels away from the 300 level of high-level hunters. Cheng Qi was stunned by a single sword strike. Isn't it just killing an ultimate monster? How can he be this happy? His face was full of disdain. But he was mocked with anticipation. An ultimate monster can also put you in a tough battle. Cheng Qi couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. Suddenly, tree roots and black pillars burst out of the ground, surrounding everyone in the middle. This scene caught everyone off guard. The surface of the black pillar was covered with some kind of runes. Unexpectedly, it exploded the next second. Everyone couldn't dodge in time. Injured and fell to the ground. Black chess appeared in the dust. Release the spider silk binding. I also raised my sword to strike at the opponent. The Kalaya dragon sword was actually in the opponent's hand. But the next second, he was unexpectedly pierced through the heart, spitting out ketchup. Aside from the explosion, Black Chess surprisingly had no other traps. Seeing this, Qi Li quickly launched an attack. R still wanted to stop it. But it was still a step too late. Hellfire erupted. The one injured the next second was himself. The others had no idea what was happening. It turned out that at the moment the black pillar exploded, it emitted toxic gas that hindered mana absorption. This is a common method to seal high-level hunters. After dealing with Zano, Black Chess turned his attention to the others. The scene was somewhat unexpected for Cheng Qi. The opponent actually used a secret technique, the highest level of shadow movement. Moreover, this skill was deemed dangerous, so it had long been erased by the previous generation of hunters. Black Chess suddenly noticed the key that had fallen beside Zano. The owner of the key to the heart of the giant has changed. To avoid further trouble, Black Chess decided to kill Zano. At a critical moment, Zano regained consciousness, activated the spider silk binding. The sudden change caught Black Chess off guard. Instantly wrapped in spider silk, the enhanced skill was covered with countless spikes on the spider silk. But after releasing the spider silk, Zano was in disbelief. The location where the spider silk bound just now was actually empty. A shadow wrapped around Black Chess appeared behind him. If there are no shadows inside, today will end here. Zano's body radiated light, generating infinite mana. Cheng Qi only felt his whole body filled with mana. Not knowing what was happening, a huge magic circle appeared in the air. Cheng Qi's area attack skill just happened to counter Black Chess's shadow movement. Black Chess quickly commanded Shally to activate the skill. The mana collected by Shally surged out, condensing into a huge sphere. Ctrl-C to cancel the skill, initializing the golem in the snowy mountain. The man only activated the weakest skill, infinite mana. Yet it shocked everyone present. The people whose mana had stagnated were now filled with power. Shally activated the cancel skill, initializing the golem. The snowy mountain generated a barrier to protect everyone. The rising hurricane swept up the debris of the rock puppets. After a moment, the monster that was just defeated actually reappeared before them. Expecting surprise. Watching this scene, could it be that the dungeon was really just beginning? Initialized the golem. A punch slammed against the barrier. Although the barrier blocked the toxic gas that prevented mana absorption, protecting others, it also couldn't directly attack the golem. Cheng Qi knew that continuing like this would only lead to self-destruction. But when he turned around, he was dumbfounded. Expecting actually launched a hellfire attack on the golem. Cheng Qi was filled with confusion. Why did the opponent also regain mana? Ars explained beside him. Zano's unique skill can generate mana and share it with others, known as a mobile mana power bank. Hearing this, Cheng Qi was even more puzzled. Only mage-type hunters can achieve such a feat. But Zano is not a mage. And high-level hunters like Nanace, using skills requires a large amount of mana. He was actually able to distribute it to everyone present. Cheng Qi thought of this and considered bringing Razo into his guild. Compared to the heart of a giant, his infinite mana might be better. What else is there to conquer in the dungeon? At this moment, Nanace also understood. The reason for the collapse of the Rainbow Bridge dungeon. The Blood Tower Guild used the same method. But from R's perspective, the opponent did not fully initialize the maze. So far, no hidden dungeons have been discovered. It could be for some reason. The logic has been disrupted. The opponent might know the reason behind it. In this way, the probability of hidden dungeons appearing is 100%. Expecting to find something strange. The rock golems were clearly much fewer than before. It turns out the rock golems melted by Nanis's hellfire did not recover to initialization. On the other side, Sana was in a critical situation, wrapping himself in a web ball. But during this time, he also regained some stamina. In the next second, he raised his sword to strike at the black piece. The black piece laughed mockingly at this. What can you do as a low-level hunter? Sano touched the opponent's body. At the same time, he activated the web binding. In a fit of rage, the black piece unleashed the power of the longsword. In an instant, flames erupted. At the critical moment, he used the web to wrap himself again, to withstand the attack. But this time, he was also discovered. The method to unleash the power of the longsword. After some thought, he found himself in a field of white snow. At the same time, the big shots within the Hunter Association couldn't help but worry about the strategy against the magic statue in the Snow Mountain. The Snow Tower Guild participated in this strategy. If they set their sights on them, even high-level hunters would be wiped out. The Star Domain Guild, also part of the Dark Guild, was even more involved. Hearing this, the other two couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. World-class Hunter Guild. Why are they participating in this strategy? In the Great Disaster 15 years ago, the magic statue Snow Mountain was one of the collapsed dungeons. The puppets that ran out from it were even more terrifying than hell-level demons. At that time, sealing the magic statue Snow Mountain was one of the world's top-level mages, Shiwan Jihua. The hunter then went missing. The heart of the giant, sealed in the hidden maze, is still a focus of the world even now. So, the Blood Tower Guild and the Star Domain Guild joined forces to conquer the dungeon. Moreover, ours is the daughter of Shiwan Jihua. This time, in addition to searching for the lost longsword, and also investigate the cause of his mother's death. Then the bald man's words shocked President Zhaoshan. The flower hunter, who was presumed dead, is not dead. 5 years ago, a survivor claimed to have seen him. This is the information that the bald man has gathered so far. Suddenly, a subordinate pushed the door open. A large number of monsters appeared in the city center. The bald man had a gloomy expression. Why are the monsters from the magic statue Snow Mountain appearing on the other side of the city? Heike and others were walking in the Snow Mountain. Shaliang looked at the injured Heike with concern. It was also the first time he had seen the other party injured. Whether they can continue to conquer the dungeon depends on not needing to recover their state. Heike was unconcerned. Just let Shaliang confirm it personally. At this moment, the hidden dungeon of the magic statue Snow Mountain appeared before everyone. The heart of the giant is within reach. This is a pearl that others dream of having. That can generate the magical pet one desires. But the man casually gave it away. Simply because the man has the copy-paste skill. The number of pearls in his hand is countless. After finding the entrance to the hidden dungeon in the Blood Tower Guild, they discovered that the gate had a barrier blocking the way. From the intelligence of the Star Domain Guild, the barrier in front of them is exactly the seal set by the flower hunter 15 years ago. Like strange iron chains guarding the gate. And behind the gate is the heart of the giant. Heike immediately had everyone prepare to break the barrier. And Shaliang took out the mana collector. Suddenly, his eyes revealed a fierce light. As if a mouse had followed them, daring to move forward in front of the Blood Tower Guild. After saying that, he swung his sword down. The Snow Mountain ferociously spat out a level 30 monster. Defeating it would yield magic crystals. In the next second, he was knocked away by a small fist. A red magic crystal fell to the ground. That punch just now was actually a small rock puppet, and its master turned out to be the left eye. The other party's expression seemed to be asking for his opinion. Only after receiving a positive response did it swallow it. The left eye beside him had a wicked smile. It turns out he immediately replicated the core of the mobile golem as soon as he obtained it. And the magic box can generate puppets by injecting mana. This was something he had not anticipated. Skill 1 can generate puppets based on one's imagination. Skill 2 can create and modify puppet armor. Skill 3 can share the puppet senses over a distance. Zano looked at the magic box with a wicked smile. This way, he could generate a bunch of magical pets. This also meant he could enter the dungeon alone, without needing to add. The guild's small puppet suddenly launched an attack. It turned out to be Ota who had come here. Seeing Zano, he burst into tears and hugged him tightly. After explaining the situation, he hurried to the hidden dungeon. He had thought he gave Ota the highest hidden skill, so he relaxed his vigilance here. But he did not expect to be discovered in the end. In fact, Ota had not been discovered. Heike had sensed another hunter at that time. This was somewhat unexpected for Zano. He did not expect Chenki to have the same idea as him. Ota mentioned that in the Blood Tower Guild, there was a very beautiful girl, and it seemed he had seen her somewhere. But for some reason, the other party used the mana collector to gather mana, and frankly admitted that when the dungeon was initializing, he was too scared to stop it. But Zano did not mean to blame him. At this moment, Ota noticed the small puppet following them. Zano explained that this was his magical pet. Upon hearing this, Ota's admiration for Zano increased even more. He could actually control magical pets. Then the two of them hid on the other side of the bridge. Zano asked Ota to bring the guild team over, and gave him the small puppet in his hand. The magic box is the key to controlling the puppets. Ota also did not expect that Zano would give him such a valuable item. At this moment, he was moved to tears. He just didn't know that the magic box in Zano's hand could form a team. Then Zano injected mana into the magic box. Based on his imagination, a rock giant eagle appeared before him, using the skill to share its senses. Seeing Shaliang holding the Kalaya dragon sword with both hands, the mana in the surrounding collector surged out. Ctrl-Z restores the Kalaya dragon sword to its initial state. Current durability value 6%. Then the number changed from 6 to 100. Current durability value 100%. The black piece felt the power coming from the sword. Seeing this, Zano looked surprised. The sword's durability actually really restored. What surprised him even more was the girl in front of him was actually cursed like him. New shortcut keys appeared, Ctrl-A and Ctrl-X. Zano's cursed power, hidden for 15 years, was about to be exposed. The other party actually obtained 3 shortcut keys. Currently searching for the control holder with all my might. After Zano witnessed the girl in front of him cancel her skill, a storm surged in his heart. The other party was actually cursed like him. Although he could replicate skills, there were harsh conditions. It was urgent to make the other party his ally. He saw the black piece raise the longsword, passing through the barrier to touch the chains. The long-sealed chains actually began to move slowly. At the same time, a magic circle appeared beneath his feet. A powerful airflow rushed towards him. The black piece looked mockingly at the key in his hand. Without the longsword, even with the key, he couldn't open the barrier. The barrier must be opened in conjunction with the longsword. Shaliang was very confused. It turned out that the owner of the longsword was Fred, the husband of the flower hunter. And when he sealed it, he set it so that only his husband's longsword could break the obstacle. Then the black piece, as if flipping a switch, rotated the longsword 90 degrees. The magic circle emitted a powerful aura. Everyone quickly generated a protective shield. Zano's giant eagle puppet could not withstand this pressure and shattered. This is also why the Black Piece had to prioritize restoring the longsword's durability. 6% durability could not withstand this power at all. Immediately after, a huge crack appeared before everyone. The information from the Star Domain Guild. That's right, after 15 years. The hidden underground dungeon of the Snow Mountain Golem finally reappeared. Target, Heart of the Giant. Zano chose not to follow inside, but waited in place for Chenki's team. On the other side, in an S-class dungeon, corpses lay everywhere. A hunter was left with only half a body. Your target is me. Why kill everyone? In response to him was a snap of fingers. If it were just to kill you, I would become a murderer and killed everyone. It will be an unexpected incident in the dungeon. Then the opponent instantly exploded and died. After the skill user dies, it will transfer to someone who can use it. 3 funnels suddenly appeared on the man's neck, which means, besides the recently harvested Ctrl-V Select All skill, the man actually has 2 other skills. Ctrl-V, Select All Scene. An inverted triangle appeared on the corpse, indicating that the object has been selected. Ctrl-X Cut skill erases the selected object. Then, a huge black ball devoured the selected object. At this moment, a woman appeared behind him. Compared to erasing one by one, Select All seems faster, but cannot be upgraded. The woman seems to understand the use of shortcuts very well. Only by mastering the skills can they be upgraded. This is the only way to get extra rewards, just like Ctrl-C. It turns out they sensed Zano's skill upgrade, but they have been searching for over a decade. Still no information on Ctrl-C. They can't help but wonder if this world really exists. However, the woman is very certain about it. Now, Ctrl-F is searching for control holders with all its might. According to the intelligence information, Ctrl-C is within the Blood Tower Guild, and the Heart of the Giant is a necessary item to fully utilize the cursed skill. On the other side, Zano and others entered the hidden dungeon, but found no one in front of them. There were no signs of a fight either. But last night, they clearly saw the other party enter not long ago. Now, they can only speed up to catch up with the other party. During this time, they are looking forward to, very curious about why the other party obtained information about the dungeon. According to Arz's investigation, the mastermind behind the Blood Tower Guild's current raid operation is the Star Domain Guild. Hearing this answer, they were greatly surprised. The world's #1 guild is actually involved. And all of this could possibly be because of Arz's mother. But Zano, beside him, was taken aback. He then glanced at Arz. The Blood Tower Guild stole the longsword. The purpose of stealing the Golem Core's truth could possibly be Arz himself. On this side, Chenki just wants to find the other party quickly, and then give them a good beating. With the support of the Star Domain Guild, this explains why the other party would use shadow movement skills. At this time, Oda also caught up. Seeing the ground beneath him, he couldn't help but wonder. Miniature rock golem. In the next second, a magic circle actually appeared beneath their feet. Before the others could react, they instantly disappeared from the spot. A new shortcut appeared again. Ctrl-F precisely searches multidimensional dungeons, connecting to unknown dimensions. Everyone actually returned to the dinosaur era. The truth of the hidden dungeon being sealed surfaced. After Chenki was teleported by the magic circle, the expectant crowd hurried over. At this moment, the ground began to shake. After the calm, they still did not find any trace of Chenki and the others. The scene before them left them in shock. A monster suddenly appeared above everyone. Seeing this, Killai rushed up immediately, under the swing of the witch's blade. The beast's body was severed. unable to understand why a dinosaur-type monster appeared. This is different from the world they are in. In Ars's investigation, the hidden dungeon is a multi-dimensional maze. They arrived in another spatial dimension, but similar dungeons had long disappeared 15 years ago. However, the reason for its disappearance is the result of Ars's mother's sealing. Now, due to some force, it has been reopened. The hidden dungeon of the Golem Snow Mountain is just one of them. Inside the dungeon, there are magic circles connecting to other dimensions. Once the magic circle is activated, it will transport to different worlds. According to Ars's mother's speculation, the great disaster is caused by the multidimensional dungeon going berserk, and resulting from it. That is why the hidden dungeon was sealed. Chenki and Zhaoshan were transported to another dimension. Now, as long as they conquer this dungeon, they can reach the location of the heart of the giant. But the monster before them sends chills down their spines. On the other side, the city is facing a large-scale invasion by rock puppets. Ordinary humans have no power to fight back. Only hunters have a chance to defeat them. However, unlike the dungeon, in the real world, they cannot easily absorb mana. At this moment, they remembered the infinite mana power bank from last night. Suddenly, a giant puppet appeared behind everyone. At a critical moment, a mysterious person split it with a sword. At this time, everyone realized the other party was a foreigner. He seemed very concerned about the mentioned infinite mana. Zuo Yi is just a low-level hunter, with only a skill that generates infinite mana. But now, he doesn't know where it is. The long-haired man seemed thoughtful. He began to doubt this skill. He had never heard of a skill that could generate infinite mana. Suddenly, two people appeared in the city building. Zhaoshan, the hunter from the Great Sage Guild, and Takeuchi, the hunter from the Maida Guild. The two had already guessed that this was the result of the collapse of the Golem Snow Mountain dungeon. Facing the giant puppet like a building, Takeuchi charged directly at it. With the skill stone armor, his body was then wrapped in stones, and with just one punch, he shattered the opponent into pieces. Zhao Xian's attack followed closely, and the puppet's core was instantly crushed. The giant puppet's fist came crashing down, and at the same time, Takeuchi unleashed a punch with skill enhancement. The two forces collided together, and in the next second, the opponent was left with only half a body. The puppet's core was also in his hand, and as he clenched his fist, it shattered. Skill Control F prompt. Takeuchi is not the control holder. It turns out the long-haired man is also cursed. Skill Control F precise search. Although the other party is not the control holder, he cleared the dungeon in just 10 minutes. This provided him with useful information. On the other side, Shaliang was pierced through the body by some kind of attack. The girl is attempting to conquer the dungeon for the first time, and was pierced through the body. The heart of the giant that everyone dreams of is continuously absorbing magical power. The sudden change in the dungeon caught everyone off guard. The Blood Tower Guild's raid team was nearly wiped out. 20 minutes ago, the Blood Tower Guild and others arrived at the hidden dungeon. Hordes of zombies surged out from the entrance. However, Black Chest just swung a sword, and the opponent was instantly engulfed in red light. Then several people were teleported to the explosion room. The door to the room appeared before everyone. The key for the second stage is activated at this moment. The huge statue stood like divine weapons on either side of the room. From the moment they entered the room, Shaliang felt an indescribable pressure, but the others did not notice anything unusual. He could only attribute it to not being a hunter. Suddenly, a shadow fell from the sky. The ground instantly shattered into pieces. By the time everyone reacted, there was only a pool of congealed blood left. The giant statue actually came to life. In front of them, everyone felt like ants. Shaliang looked terrified. In front of the giant, everyone was defenseless. Black Chess, who had seen countless life and death situations, could not help but show a look of horror. Quickly instructed Shaliang to prepare the mana collector. As long as there is a breath left, he would use Control-C to recover. What he did not expect was the mana in the collector was actually leaking out continuously. Even high-level mages could not break the seal of the collector. At this moment, it was actually ineffective. Liu Yi discovered all the mana was converging in the same direction. The giant's attack came again. Everyone was already trembling with fear and fled in panic. The attack of the Kalaya dragon sword can only shatter a part of the body. Guild members are dying one after another. Black Chess's expression began to twist. But the difference in size and strength between the two is like heaven and earth. Just as he was thinking of using the sword skill, the sword turned out to be completely ineffective, no different from an ordinary sword. The user does not have enough mana to unleash the Kalaya dragon sword, but he himself clearly has a level above 300. The giant's huge foot ruthlessly stomped down. On the other side, Shaliang arrived at the place where mana was gathering. Countless mana converged in one place. What lay before him was the giant's heart he had longed for. But he couldn't understand. According to legend, the giant's heart can infinitely generate mana. But at this moment it was continuously absorbing mana. After sensing someone approaching, the giant's heart underwent a mutation. Shaliang hurriedly fled from this place. Sure enough, it launched an attack the next second. A red beam instantly pierced through Shaliang's body. At the same time, the giant swung down its sword. At a critical moment, Black Chess used shadow movement to block the attack. Took out a potion to heal Shaliang's injuries. He picked up Shaliang and prepared to escape. The heart of the giant golem had awakened. The boss battle starts now. Looking at the pop-up window, Black Chess was shocked. At this moment, the room's door slowly closed. Black Chess quickly activated shadow movement, thinking of using the shadows to escape. The next second, fear was revealed in his eyes. The user does not have enough mana to activate the shadow skill. All the mana in the room was absorbed by the giant's heart. There was simply not enough mana to use skills. Seeing the door about to close, Black Chess gritted his teeth and made a decision. If this continues, neither of them would be able to escape this place. So he threw Shaliang out with one hand. Shaliang did not understand. The two were only together for their own purposes. The other party actually sacrificed themselves to save him. However, Black Chess just smiled broadly. As long as you are still alive, you can return everything to the way it was. Isn't that right? The legendary giant's heart can generate infinite mana. At this moment, it was continuously absorbing the mana from the space. Zano's copy-paste skill is a bug in existence. Infinite mana surged forth. An endless stream of mana unleashed the full power of skills. The targeted attack from the giant's heart caught everyone off guard. After Shaliang was thrown out of the boss room, he fell into a coma. When he opened his eyes again, Zano's figure came into view. Zano was transferring mana to him. Zano knew, as long as the other party had enough mana, they could recover from their injuries. Shaliang, however, showed a surprised expression. How could he know about his skills? At this moment, everyone arrived at the door of the boss room, but could not open it due to the lack of a key. And if they couldn't clear the dungeon in front of them, they wouldn't be able to get out. This is why so many people have gone missing in this dungeon. Zano watched this scene, but dared not speak. In his backpack storage, there was a copied key, but he couldn't explain it. Unless he exposed his skills, Ars searched for the mechanism on the door. Suddenly, a hand sank into it. His robe actually revealed the same runes as on the door. Then the door opened. His robe resonated with the door. In last night's speculation, Ars was indeed the key to the hidden dungeon. At this moment, everyone felt a pressure coming at them. as if something was absorbing their mana. This was the same scene as when Shaliang entered the room earlier. The heart of the troll statue was absorbing all the mana around it. He quickly urged everyone to escape, because even the most advanced hunters, if they have no mana, are no different from ordinary people. Before he finished speaking, the giant statue appeared before everyone. Seeing this, Killai shouted to let Zano transfer his mana. Zano did not hesitate, and quickly activated the copy paste skill to copy the user's mana. Paste the copied mana. Infinite paste. System prompts filled the entire space. Countless mana surged out. Shaliang saw the scene for the first time and was momentarily stunned. Even though it was being absorbed by the heart of the giant, there was still mana overflowing. If he could combine his skills with his own skills, then it might be possible to awaken his parents. On this side, the anticipation had already rushed forward. The witch's blade cleaved through the statue's body. Chenki's black lightning became more tangible. With one strike, the opponent turned to rubble. However, more giant statues approached. Chenki's skills were fully unleashed. The black lightning enveloped the giant statue, causing the entire Blood Tower Guild to be annihilated, and the monsters were all defeated at this moment. After the smoke cleared, everyone found the black chess piece collapsed nearby, barely alive. Zano checked the attributes of the longsword. Durability had indeed restored to 100%. At this moment, he was already certain that the girl before him was also a curse bearer, so he thought about trying to copy her skills. However, now he wanted to copy the black chess piece's skills even more. Ctrl C to copy the target's shadow movement skill, but the next second it prompted, due to the target's level being higher than his own, copying is not possible. But then his expression changed in shock, because the target has strong hostility towards you. In this case, there are two options to obtain the skill. Option 1, kill the target and obtain the opponent's skill. Option 2, forcefully absorb the target's skill. The condition to activate is that the opponent's health is below 15%. Will prevent the target from using skills. The opponent's health is clearly below 15% now. Even without killing the opponent, the skill can be absorbed. At this moment, Chenki walked over to help Shaliang recover the black chess piece's injuries, but can only manage to save his life. He immediately untied his restraints. Shaliang glanced at Zano. Then he used the cancellation skill to heal the black chess piece's injuries. The severed arm restored to its original state. Zano watched this scene closely. This is a skill that can rival his own ability to copy bodies. Comparable skills. Moments later, the black chess piece awakened, just as he had planned. Both of them survived, looking forward to binding him afterwards. He warned him not to do anything unnecessary, but he looked towards the location of the heart of the giant. This dungeon has just begun. After saying that, he ran away, expecting to quickly block the attack of the heart of the giant, but was pierced by a red shockwave. This sudden change caught everyone off guard. One shockwave attacked Zhaoshan. At a critical moment, the little puppet rushed up quickly. The man exerted all his strength to conquer the dungeon, but the girl tearfully reset it. The sudden situation of the heart of the giant caught everyone off guard. A magical shockwave flew towards Zhaoshan. With his current strength, he couldn't resist at all. At this moment, the little puppet rushed up quickly. The shockwave raised clouds of dust. The little puppet actually fused with Zhaoshan to form armor, withstood the attack. It turns out that 30 minutes ago, Chenki encountered zombies just like Zhaoshan. But under Chenki's black lightning, all were eliminated. Fell. The falling magic crystal became the mouth of the little puppet, and also accompanied by a level increase. From level 1 to level 2. Can grow up to level 10. Can freely change shape. Can share senses with the master. When Zhaoshan touched the little puppet, It actually turned into stone and covered Zhaoshan. The previous scene stunned the left eye beside him. The rock puppet can be used like this. Kiki was thinking about how the golem core evolved. So similar to Master Takeuchi's stone armor skill. At this moment, the shockwave instantly broke his shield and brushed past him. Soon Ars understood. The attack of the heart of the giant is composed of pure magic. Ordinary magical defenses are ineffective against it. Only physical attacks can stop it. Expecting the simple slash of the witch's sword to break the shockwave. Because the magic is very dense. Or a shield can provide protection. This is also why the rock armor can withstand attacks. But if only continuous defense is maintained, the task cannot be completed. Because it is absorbing magic and can generate infinitely, the attack of the heart of the giant will not stop. Measures must be taken to destroy the heart of the giant. Otherwise, everyone will die here. At this moment, Sano thought of the shadow movement of the black piece. It can traverse shadows within the giant spider silk, and it won't be discovered by anyone. In the next second, he disappeared from the spot. Then he appeared on the other side of the heart of the giant. Immediately, he activated his inherent vibration skill. The heart of the giant erupted with a force that rebounded him. But then Sano charged forward again. Control V used the giant spider silk. The powerful spider silk actually wrapped around the heart of the giant. Everyone showed disbelief in their eyes. But in the next second, the spider silk was still pierced by the shockwave. Seeing this, Sano strengthened the spider silk binding again and tried to touch the heart of the giant. He activated the inherent vibration again. This time the shield shattered. Then the heart of the giant split in two. After a dazzling light, you have destroyed the heart of the giant golem and completed the quest. Countless in the dungeon. An upgrade window popped up. Completion reward. Heart of the giant golem. Level 1. Skill 1 can generate mana infinitely. Skill 2 can absorb or store mana up to a certain limit. Such an outrageous skill. In Sano's hands, it is useless. Control C, level up, can automatically copy objects that can be copied. Sano picked up the Kalaya dragon sword and returned it to Ars. It is a relic of Ars' mother. Suddenly, Grant beside him asked Sano, "Why are you using the Blood Tower Guild skills?" It turns out Grant saw him using the skill just now. Seemingly, Seiki also sensed something unusual. He could actually achieve instant movement. Sano could only lie and say it was due to the spider silk upgrade. Grant felt suspicious, but couldn't find a reason. Fortunately, the expectation beside him helped him out. On the way back, the ambition of the black piece was exposed. "The favor I did for you back then, you still have to repay it." The other party actually made Shally reset the dungeon. The two of them have a contract between them. A kind of permanent constraint. They will never betray each other. As long as the contract exists, Shally cannot escape. Compared to the unwillingness on Shally's face, the black piece looks smug. The residual magic in the space is enough to activate the cancellation skill. Countless magical energies converge towards him. Sano was startled. This is impossible. He knows what Shally is about to do. He hurriedly urged everyone to escape this dungeon. Then, disregarding the exposure of his skills, he moved forward to stop it. He doesn't understand why Shally is doing this. He could only see tears in his eyes. His heart was filled with unwillingness. This is a rare item worth 2 billion. But the man crushed it without hesitation. As Shally activated the cancellation skill to reset the dungeon, Sano disregarded the exposure of his strength and activated shadow movement to stop it. But it was still a step too late. The surrounding space shattered and rose. The space began to collapse. An invisible force pulled them into a black hole. In the next second, they found themselves above a city. Everyone looked puzzled. The appearance of President Oda shocked them even more. They actually returned to above Tokyo. This scene was utterly baffling. On the other side, due to Sano's intervention, the dungeon was only partially restored. The handcuffs binding the black magic simultaneously reset and disappeared. Seeing this, Sano hurriedly used the giant spider silk skill. But then, he froze in place. Copy and Paste could not find the item. Shally was equally surprised and satisfied. He only reset the dungeon. He didn't expect that last night was also reset. Last night, at this time, his face was ashen. His body and memory had not changed. But his level was reset to the state just after awakening. Suddenly, he noticed key information on the window. The unconfirmed object has been copied. It can be pasted. The curse skill did not disappear. What exactly is the unconfirmed object? Before he could think it through, he was marked with a blood streak by the black piece. As the opponent continued to attack, Grant, who was not transferred, raised his sword to block. The black piece looked disdainful. The low-level hunter Grant from the International Hunter Association quickly urged Sano to escape the dungeon. However, the next second he was knocked back by the black piece. The two were not on the same level of strength. He was knocked to the ground in a moment. The opponent's movements were too fast. Grant could not defend at all. The black piece lunged forward in a swift step. He did not expect Sano to block the sword with his body. The scene was beyond Grant's expectations, but the next second, Sano was split in half. The two couldn't help but show expressions of terror. The black piece picked up the giant's heart that had fallen to the ground, noticing that only Sano's object would not disappear after the reset. He was now Shally's only support. Suddenly a voice rang in his ear. "When I lost everything, thank you for killing me." Then a blade cut through his arm. Sano walked over as good as new. Everyone couldn't believe their eyes. The black piece looked as if it had seen a ghost. Clearly, he had split the opponent in half. After calming down, he charged forward with his sword again. But this time, Sano was able to activate the giant spider silk. It turned out the unconfirmed object was his pre-reset self. The spider silk instantly wrapped around the black piece. Just when he thought he could dodge using shadow movement, a look of terror appeared in his eyes. The skill has been transferred and cannot be used. This time, the black piece was really panicked. He quickly urged Shally to activate the cancel skill, but Shally was unwilling to assist in further wrongdoing. However, the two were bound by a life and death contract. If the black piece dies, he could not escape either. Sano quickly approached Shally. The bracelet in front of him was precisely the reason Shally dared not betray the black piece. He tightened his grip on the opponent's bracelet. The skill's inherent vibration instantly shattered the contract bracelet. Shally was in tears at this moment. At this point, the black piece lost its only support. He didn't understand why he couldn't use his shadow movement. Sano immediately provided the answer. A massive black shadow enveloped him. In the next second, he used the shadow to raise his sword in front of the black piece. Two sword blades swung down. The black piece collapsed to the ground. All of this was completed in an instant. Grant looked completely bewildered. How did he manage to do that? Sano picked up the heart of the giant that had fallen to the ground. To prevent the same situation from happening, under the shocked gazes of the two, Sano crushed it without hesitation. Unexpectedly, he gained a pleasant surprise. He had destroyed the reward item from the underground city and received a unique reward.